Welcome to the VProject Faith Summit. My name's Sean Savage, the founder of the VProject, and I'm up here with a very distinguished panel. We hope you really gain a lot of knowledge and information this evening. The VProject was formed for a night just like this, providing trusted facts and information about the COVID-19 vaccines from trusted leaders in our community. There's no greater group of trusted leaders than our faith leaders in the community, as well as our medical leaders in our community. The mayor's here, and I will say with the mayor, financial advisors and politicians are just a little bit under these two groups. So I grew up in a house where I learned to respect and admire all faith traditions. Tonight we have a blending of many faith traditions. It's been very heartwarming to work with all of these folks. We have the Islamic Center represented, the Jewish Federation, the Hindu Temple, the Diocese of Toledo. We have Central City churches. We have suburban churches. It's been a really heartwarming event to be involved with these folks. We also, on the medical side, have representatives from Mercy and ProMedica, and also the health department. And if you do not believe in miracles, tonight you should, because all of these folks on the stage are working together. So, in all seriousness, it has been amazing to see this community coalition come together. Everybody in Northwest Ohio pulling together behind a common cause. We have strong belief in what we're going to be getting accomplished in the coming weeks and months. The number one motivation for me in forming the VProject was that there will be a direct correlation between the percentage of our community vaccinated and the number of lives that will be saved. And I don't think there's a better mission to get behind. My dad used to tell us children growing up, if you're on Lake Erie in a boat and a storm comes up, pray to God, but make sure you row to shore. And I think when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine and COVID, we can have a similar thought process. We need to pray as a community for all those who are suffering through COVID-19. We also need to pray for the end of this pandemic. But we also need to embrace the scientific solution, the vaccines. That combination is exceptionally powerful. I believe God is in the middle of this solution. And with that, we'll turn for an opening prayer. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thanks, Sean. And I want to welcome all of you who are watching online at home. We, as faith leaders, I'm going to slide over here actually, it's been a privilege for us to work shoulder to shoulder. We are not uniform in our theology, but we are unified in our care for this community. And so where we would like to begin is with a moment of prayer. Wherever you are at, I'm going to ask these faith leaders to stand with me, Jewish, Hindu, Islamic, Christian, multi-denomination. This is just a small representation of all of the faith leaders that are a part of the VProject to pray together. And so will you join us in prayer, first asking God to help those who've been impacted by COVID-19. Let's also pray for those who are on the front lines serving those who are impacted by COVID-19. Let's also pray for our leaders who are leading our community through business, through education, through government, and yes, faith and medical leaders right now for wisdom and endurance. And lastly, let's ask for victory over COVID, for our community, for our country, for our world. God, we turn to you for help, healing, and hope. Guide us with your wisdom. And everyone said, amen. Thanks. Now we would like to invite the mayor to come and give some opening remarks. Mayor, thank you for being here tonight.
I don't know about you, but I'm tired of these masks. I'm tired of the restrictions. I'm tired of everything that we've been through in this last year. And why wouldn't we be? A year ago today, none of us, very likely, had ever heard of COVID-19. Perhaps some of us who have a keen eye on the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal had just started to hear about something called the coronavirus. But it had just been discovered about 2 months prior. Our own health officials in this country had only learned of it the month before. And 1 year ago today, February of 2020, the first American, a 57-year-old woman in California, died from it. By the end of last February, there were still only 10 confirmed cases of COVID in the United States. None in Ohio, none in Toledo. The closest to where we live was a businessman in Illinois who had just gotten back from China. You could forgive us if we thought that COVID-19, coronavirus, that's something that's happening on the other side of the world. We don't have to worry about that. That doesn't apply to us. And then all of a sudden, March 9th, the first case in Ohio, the governor declares an emergency, and the next thing you know, it has changed everything about how we live. It's changed the way we interact with one another. It's changed the way our kids go to school. It's changed the way we worship. It has affected businesses, families, our own mental health, and it has been devastating to so many groups in so many ways. From something that few of us had ever heard of a year ago tonight. As of today, 109 million people on this earth have been infected by it. That's almost 2% of every man, woman, and child on earth. And almost 500,000 Americans have died from it. So in the last year, as many of our fellow Americans have died from this virus, as have been killed in every war our country has ever fought, from the Revolutionary War to the War on Terror. And those deaths in service of our country have occurred over the 250 years we've been around. COVID has killed half as many in a year. As devastating as it has been, and as frustrating as it has been in so many ways, we finally have a path to beat this, to finally not have to deal with these, to finally get back to what we love doing in this community, going to a Mud Hens game, going to a walleye game, enjoying the golf tournaments that happen downtown, the concerts down on the river and in our cities, to be able to enjoy birthdays and holidays the way we want to. We can do it. We have been given the opportunity. That opportunity has presented itself in the form of a vaccine. Now, we get it. Not everyone feels comfortable taking that vaccine. Some people have perhaps been misled by what you might read on the internet. Some may have ideological concerns. Some communities, very understandably, have had experiences, cultural experiences, where they may have been assured that a vaccine was safe. Turns out it wasn't. These are all legitimate reasons to have concerns. The V Project is all about building from the grassroots level a trust that can promote from the grassroots a desire to do what we all know we need to do, and that is to get vaccinated. So Sean's right. I'm not sure if financial planners and politicians have a similar approval rating, but I don't doubt it. I do understand, though, that you may not be convinced to get vaccinated if someone like me shows up at your door, knocks on it and says, hey, you ought to do this, the government says so. I get it. But part of what the V Project is all about is saying that maybe you can understand the importance of it if your pastor or rabbi or faith leader encourages you, or your coworker, the principal at your school, the person in the cubicle next to where you work. That's what this is all about. And tonight is a very important step of having the faith community come together, answer questions so that you can feel comfortable that the step we need to take to get back to where we want to be is a safe step worth taking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. And I am going to give one big collective thank you to all of you, okay? Thank you for being here. You are our audience, and also you have a channel to speak with us. And so if you have a cell phone and you want to text in a question, you can text the word question to 419-419-0707. I know it sounds like a commercial, but 419-419-0707. Text the keyword question, and that'll get you in touch with a team here that's in contact with me. And we have already populated the night with some very common questions. Here's our hope, all of us. We are for our community. We are for you. We care about Northwest Ohio. And we also want you to be informed. That's also what we're about. We know that you are ultimately the ones that are going to make the decision, and you're going to have to filter through what is wise for you and your family. What we want to do is help answer some of those questions that may be unnecessary boundaries, barriers keeping you from making that next step. So, here is who is with me on the stage. To my right, we have Monsignor Kubacki from the Catholic Church. We have Bishop Pat McKinstry from the Worship Center. We have Stephen Rothschild with the Jewish Federation. We have Pandit Dixit from the Hindu Temple. We have Imam Deeb from the Islamic Center of Greater Toledo. We have Dr. Calvin Sweeney with the Tabernacle. And over here are medical professionals and health professionals. We've got Commissioner Robison with the Wood County Health Department. We've got Dr. Masood, who's an infectious disease specialist. And we also have Dr. Armstrong, who is a well-known, well-respected physician in our community. And so the first place we are going to begin, really, is with this question. Is the vaccine ethical from a religious perspective? I mean, is this something that we should be considering? And we have to filter this through each of our faiths. So, Imam, I'll begin with you.
Thank you so much, Pastor. This is an excellent and critical question. From the Muslim perspective, what would make the vaccine unethical is potentially the ingredients or the use of aborted human fetuses. These are things other religious communities also share, concerns other religious communities also share. But rest assured that the mRNA vaccines now being distributed by our amazing health department and community leaders on the front lines is 100% ethical. And we should recognize that as people of faith, right, that we should be encouraged to take that, and we should not see the ethics of it as a barrier because they are 100% ethical.
Thank you. Stephen?
On behalf of the Jewish community, it's my privilege to be here tonight, and I want to thank everyone. From the Jewish perspective, the moral imperative is quite clear. The vaccine is ethically and morally necessary. Jewish life places the ultimate value on every human life. We have an obligation to take care of our own health, and when we have the opportunity to care for and protect others from illness or disease, the obligation is to do so. And here with the vaccine, we have an opportunity to do that. So all of the major denominations of Judaism, the Reform, Orthodox, and Conservative, rabbinical leadership have all supported getting the vaccine when it is your turn.
Thanks. Monsignor. Monsignor.
Thank you. I'm Monsignor Bill Kubacki from the Catholic Diocese of Toledo. During these days when many have experienced compromised health due to COVID or have suffered the loss of a loved one because of the virus, I think there's a greater need for us to look at what can help and keep us healthy and safe. The use of the vaccines raises a number of moral and practical issues which merit some careful consideration. Members of the faithful are encouraged to receive the COVID vaccination for the protection of their own health, that of others, and for the common good of all. It's morally acceptable to receive the COVID-19 vaccination. However, members of the faithful are not obligated or mandated to receive the vaccination. From the church perspective, the Holy See is responsible for safeguarding Catholic doctrine on faith and morals. And with the approval of our Holy Father, Pope Francis, he recently confirmed that while no one is morally obligated to be vaccinated, each person, however, has the duty to protect one's own health and to pursue the common good of all, which means to prevent the ongoing spread of the virus other than vaccination do not exist. The pursuit of the common good may suggest vaccination with a view to protect the most vulnerable, the weakest, and the most exposed. Those who choose to receive the vaccine should give preference to vaccines which in their development and production are not associated with cell lines originally derived by morally tainted methods. For more information concerning the moral implications on receiving the vaccine, one can consult the Holy See, one can consult the U.S. Catholic bishops, or even the bishops of the state of Ohio. My hope is that you will seriously consider receiving this vaccine and that this year may bring about hope and healing to each and every one of us for our good and the good of the common good. Thank you.
Bishop.
I'm Bishop Pat McKinstry from the Worship Center. And when we look at it from our faith perspective, most of the time, the way that we believe, the very first thing that most of us want to do is this biblical? Should we look for it in the Bible? Well, we're not going to find that, but we are part of this great human race. We know Christ as our great physician. I believe and trust that he gives doctors the wisdom and the knowledge what to spread his love by getting the things that we need in the physical realm. And when I look at it also, if we really want to just keep searching, in the disciples of Christ, there was one that was called the great physician. His name was Luke. And if we look at other things, different miracles that we've seen, today, if someone would come and spit in some clay and put it on our eyes, we would think that is absolutely unethical. If a physician would say, go and jump in a dirty river, we would say that is observed. We would just really be off. But I really believe we as people, a many-membered body, and even our neighbors in our community, I think it would be very wise to go and be part of this vaccination. Of course, this is not the first. We couldn't even get into elementary school when I was a little girl without being vaccinated in certain areas. So I challenge my people that it's your decision, but I usually step out first, and I felt that after doing research, it was my duty as a leader in the community to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Pandit.
I'm Anant Kumar Dixit, priest from the Hindu Temple and Heritage Hall of Toledo. Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, from its very beginning has been a science of our essential core of what it means to be human. In its holy scripture called the Vedas, an important and long chapter is devoted to Ayurveda, the ancient medical science of health and well-being. Ayurveda includes a variety of medical interventions to support the body's immunity and ability to heal itself naturally of illness. Modern vaccines are new ways based on the sound Ayurvedic principle of boosting human immunity to prevent and cure major disease like COVID. As a spiritual leader for the Hindu community, I humbly request all of us to get vaccinated for COVID at the earliest possible. You have my full blessings that it is right dharmic action to take at this point. In fact, it is our most important duty to our nation. By acting in this righteous way, we will protect ourselves, our family, friends, and Northwest Ohio. I offer my sincere prayers to Almighty Lord that the whole world may soon overcome COVID. I offer this Sanskrit sacred prayer for all mankind 3 times. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all be happy. May all be happy. May all be happy. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Thanks, everyone. So if there aren't any major or significant religious barriers keeping us from moving forward, then it really becomes some questions for the medical community. And the first one I'd like to direct to Dr. Masood. Is the vaccine itself safe? How can we know that we can trust it, especially with how quickly it was developed?
That is an excellent question. If you had asked me this question about a year ago, I would have been as skeptical as others. But as a doctor, you have to look at the data. So in 2020, with all the advanced scientific advancement, with the funding, with the manpower, I think it was doable, and they did it. When you look at the trial data from both Pfizer and Moderna, they included more than 70,000 participants to look at the efficacy of the vaccine and to look for any side effects before rolling out to the public. Previous vaccination protocols would include just a handful of the patients, and it would happen over several years. This trial was done last year with a huge number of participants, and it was a double-blind controlled trial. So the person who was receiving the vaccine or the placebo would have no idea. So this helps in reducing the bias. Looking at the data, I feel confident that this is very safe and efficient. If you can compare it with the flu vaccination, every year when we get the flu vaccination, there is 40 to 60% chance that the vaccine would work. Compared to that, the COVID vaccine would provide more than 95% protection. That is huge. So I would definitely recommend everybody getting it, looking at how safe and effective the vaccine is.
Well, I have a question that I would like to direct to Dr. Armstrong, and it relates to the African American community. Should the African American community trust that this vaccination would be safe in light of past history?
Thank you for the question, and honored to be here tonight. Unfortunately, the first thing that comes to most African American minds, because it's not too distant in the past, is the Tuskegee Experiment. And for those people who are, watching in that may not be quite familiar, this was an epic failure of the United States public health system, where they took sharecroppers in 1932 to 1972 who were infected with syphilis. They did not know they were infected, and they were told that they were going to get free health care and other amenities. So 8 years into the experiment, penicillin, of course, was found to be a treatment and a cure, but they were not offered this. So it didn't begin and end with Tuskegee, but years, centuries of oppression and racism has caused a mistrust, in particular people of color and African Americans, with the healthcare system. So one of the things to be of note is that the study population for the vaccine that was trialed in was very large and robust and very diverse. The lead developer for the CDC is an African American woman, Dr. Corbett. There's also a lot of apprehension as to, are we being experimented on because this was rushed through for politicization? And the answer is, of course, no. The FDA mandates that you cannot cut corners in terms of the known and potential risks and the benefits of the vaccine. In addition to that, I believe that when I distill down to this question, is a vaccine safe? Well, we know it's safe and effective. It's more of a question of, can we trust the system? And I believe that that's why we're here tonight. That's what the VProject is about. It's a consistent message from trusted voices.
Thanks. Commissioner Robinson, so much of the apprehension towards the vaccine, the fear around the vaccine, is not necessarily from a lack of information, but rather from consistent misinformation and myths. Can you speak about some of these common myths and whether they hold any weight?
Sure, I'd be happy to. There are a few myths that come to mind as being particularly prevalent. Among those myths, number one is that if I've had COVID, I don't need to be vaccinated. What the data shows us is that when people have recovered, they do experience a low risk of infection for the first 90 days after recovery. But beyond that 90-day period, we have documented cases where reinfections do occur. And so it's really important to bolster our immune system by getting vaccine. And so this is why, even if you've been infected previously and you've recovered, it's still really important for you to take the opportunity to be vaccinated to ensure your immune system continues to operate in an optimal fashion moving forward. Another myth that I've heard pretty often, and this is actually one that has reemerged after H1N1, is that the vaccine contains controversial substances like tracking devices or implants. I can tell you that I heard this from a gentleman who was out in front of one of our vaccine clinics all the way in Denver, Colorado, who had raised this concern all the way back then. And the concern is that people are evaluating whether or not they are going to be able to know information about them by getting vaccinated. What I can tell you is that simply is not an ingredient in these vaccines, and it won't be in any vaccine that's even coming to market in the near term. And in fact, if you're concerned about privacy from implants or things like that, your cell phone presents a real risk to that. And privacy settings on social media are certainly things you should explore if those are concerns that you have. But as far as the vaccine is concerned, they contain common ingredients that are used in vaccines. Things that like lipids or fats that protect the active ingredients in the vaccine, and things like sugars and salts that help to round out its composition. But there's nothing in there that is at all, some sort of nano device or some sort of technological inclusion that's going to in any way interfere with your health or your privacy. Finally, one thing that I hear also related to the mRNA vaccines is that this vaccine has the possibility of altering my DNA. This is a common myth that we hear because we hear the word mRNA and we recognize that it sounds similar to DNA, and it makes us nervous about what this might mean, particularly because it's surfaced as the first candidate, and this is not a technology that we're as familiar with. But the way that these vaccines work is they actually cause your cells through a message that's sent at the cellular level to produce a protein through the mRNA that then your body can recognize should they encounter the COVID virus in real life. Once that message has been sent and the protein is established, after that, the genetic material is destroyed and expelled by the cell, and there is no risk of any lasting impact on your DNA or on your body. In order for that to have occurred, it would have to enter all the way into the nucleus of the cell, which does not happen. And so because of this, it is an effective tool to ramp up an immune response without overwhelming your system or changing your fundamental genetic makeup.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. My question is for Dr. Masood. If I get the vaccine, can you tell me about the side effects? And is there a chance that I could actually get COVID from the vaccine?
Great question. So the most common side effects that you may encounter after the vaccination would be mostly injection site reactions, like pain at the injection site, a little soreness at the muscle. Then sometimes you may have fever, chills, headaches, fatigue. These are the most common side effects. And usually these are seen more with the second dose rather than the first. And there has been more cases of these side effects in younger population. Patients more than 65 years have mounted less immune reaction, therefore they experience these symptoms less. But whether you have these reactions or not, you have to be sure that your body is going to mount the immune reaction that is needed to protect you from the COVID infection. And to answer the second question, no, it cannot give you COVID. Usually, it is a side effect of live vaccinations, which can induce an active infection in the body. With the mRNA vaccines, the main reaction it will have is to induce your body to produce those proteins, and it cannot cause the actual disease. Once those proteins are activated by an actual exposure from the disease, this will mount the immune reaction that will help protect you from the actual viral infection.
Commissioner, one of the things that we have heard, some of the questions that come in are why all of the conflicting information then? Why are doctors, some doctors, not all, but some doctors saying, hey, you might want to wait, and yet public health officials are saying, go get the vaccine?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's that the answer to this question is rooted in understanding the difference between public health and medicine. So public health is focused on the population health, and it's not looking at a single individual, but at the community as a whole. By contrast, medicine focuses on individuals and ensuring that those individuals are getting exactly the care they need for their individual situation. So you may have a situation where there are two pregnant women who seek advice from their doctor on whether they should be vaccinated. And the doctor is going to evaluate everything in their cases, and based on what he sees, for one, he may say, absolutely, let's move forward and get you vaccinated because of all of the risk that you have from your health conditions. And for another, he may say, you know, you're so close to delivery, we can wait this out, we'll do it after you're done, or some other level of advice that's there. This is because the doctor is working to understand the individual needs of that patient and then apply those requirements within the broader public health recommendation. So as you go from patient to patient and even physician to physician, we have to recognize that there is an evaluation that's being done of those individual characteristics and conditions so that each patient gets the care they need while thinking about the broader community recommendations that public health is making.
Thanks. Now, Monsignor, you just completed the second dose of the COVID vaccine, is that correct? Will you tell us a little bit about your experience?
I think when COVID first began and they were talking about vaccines and so on, you know, it always seemed so far in a distant future. And when it came time that we were able to receive the vaccine, it made me stop and think personally, do I really want to receive it? And as I looked at myself, I'm a priest, I'm associated, and I'm with many people throughout every day of the week. And in order to continue my ministry, I wanted to really protect myself. And I think getting the first shot, I wasn't too afraid. I received it at Mercy Health St. V's Medical Center. And I have to say the process took maybe about 40 minutes in the sense of you received the shot, you gave them all your paperwork, and you waited 15 minutes and you were out. The side effect I had after receiving the first shot is I had a sore arm the following day, and it lasted maybe at the most for 24 hours. I just received the second shot last week, Friday, and it made me stop in my tracks prior to receiving that because you hear all the kind of side effects of receiving your second shot and so on. I heard a lot of people talk about the side effects they had from the Moderna shot. I was getting the Pfizer vaccine. And I have to honestly say, after I received the second shot on Friday afternoon, by Saturday afternoon, I was waiting for the side effects to kick in. And simply, I had a sore arm for maybe 12 hours or so, and really no other side effects. Now, Dr. Masood said older people don't get side effects as often. Maybe that's why I didn't get the side effects, because I'm an older person. But frankly, I would say to people contemplating receiving the vaccine, don't be afraid.
My question is directed to Commissioner Robinson. Why is it important, as important goal, to get at least 70% vaccinated?
So that 70% threshold that you're talking about is what's often referenced as kind of a target goal for what we call herd immunity. Herd immunity is this concept that we can prevent the spread of disease within a broader community, even if not everyone in that community is vaccinated. So we think that it might be around 70%. It may be higher than that. We'll know as we move forward. But the reason that the goal is to get there is because then we can ensure that even for those who can't be protected for a variety of reasons. So think about our own communities. We know that unless you're at least 16 years old right now, there are no vaccines available to you. You have to be 16 to get the Pfizer vaccine. You have to be 18 to get the Moderna vaccine. So as of right now, we have a whole generation of people that can't be vaccinated. We are seeing significant impacts on our young children as they're experiencing these chronic conditions following even mild cases of COVID. So keeping our kids safe is something we can do by being vaccinated. The other thing is going back to a little bit about what I shared earlier in terms of the difference between medicine and public health. In medicine, we're focused on the individual outcomes. So at the 95% or more level, that's fantastic for keeping an individual safe and protected. Really, I mean, it's almost as the best that we can do for a vaccine. But while that individual themselves is safe, that disease can still spread from person to person. When we start getting into a large number of people vaccinated, 70% plus or more, now we can prevent the spread of the disease throughout the whole community. When we start to see cases decline at a community level and the disease not spreading from person to person on a broad scale, that's when we start to think about a full recovery, returning our economy to the way that it was before COVID, returning our family activities and our schools and our businesses to the way they were, and reimagining life as we knew it before COVID hit us more than a year ago. So that 70% threshold is going to position us for those sort of outcomes that we want that just cannot be accomplished if just I am protected.
Dr. Armstrong, I have a question for you. If this virus is mutating, will these vaccines be effective? If so, for how long?
Well, I'll be brief, and I think maybe a good place to start is what is the difference between a mutation, a variant, and a strain. So viruses copy themselves, and so they're replicating their own genetic makeup, their own genetic code. And as they do that over and over, they can make mistakes. But coronavirus, these clever little devils that they are, have a specific enzyme that minimizes the mistakes they make when they're copying themselves. So a change in one gene or multiple genes is a mutation. And then those viruses become variants. So the difference between that and a strain is how it represents itself phenotypically, meaning it demonstrates itself either it's more or less lethal, more or less transmissible. It may lead to its own demise because these viruses can actually compete against themselves in a particular host body. So what we know of the FDA-approved drugs so far from Pfizer and Moderna is there probably is activity against these new strains. We just don't know how much it is. Is it 60%, 65, 70, or for how long? And part of that is because there are not, unfortunately, knock on wood, but there aren't enough people who have been infected with these variants to be able to follow them over time to see what their response is to the vaccines that have been given or the ones that will be developed. Dr. Masood, you might have something to add?
I agree completely with Dr. Armstrong. I think it's a little too early to predict if the vaccines are going to be effective for the new variants. So far, the data is consistent that it will still work. As long as the spike protein remains intact, which these mRNA vaccines work against, I think we have a good chance. But if there are new variants that may come along that has a different spike protein, we may be in trouble. But as with other viruses that keep on mutating, we may have more vaccines coming in booster forms or even bivalent vaccinations, which may have the vaccination against the new variants and the original strain. So that is something we have to stay tuned for.
Commissioner Robison, the question I have is, what are the chances of getting reinfected after completing the vaccine?
Yeah, good question. And what we know right now is what the effective rate is for the individual. So the research has shown us that for the vast majority of people, in fact, if we do our math, it's 19 out of 20, that they'll be protected against COVID once they've received their vaccine and completed their series. So as we know, the two vaccines that we have right now are a 2-dose series, which means that we have to have 2 doses for them to be complete. And then about 2 weeks after the second dose is when we get to that full immunity that the vaccine can offer. The CDC has indicated that with recovery from natural infection from COVID, that it's unlikely that you'll be reinfected within 90 days after your recovery period, as mentioned before. And now they've applied that same standard just recently to vaccinations and have indicated that after you've completed your second dose, provided that you've had both doses, it's been 2 weeks, and you've been asymptomatic since your exposure, that you actually now don't have to quarantine as well. So that's indicating a level of confidence in the vaccine itself. So, we don't know exactly how long the immunity will last. This is another open question, very much like the question of variants, and so we're continuing to look at this closely. But at least for 90 days after the immunization, we have a high level of confidence that you'll be protected. And so this is why for us right now, getting as many people vaccinated at the same time is so critical. I've described this a bit as an airbag. So you don't need your airbag on all of the time. You just need it to be open at exactly the right moment. And so if all of us can develop immunity to COVID at the same time, then we have a chance as a whole community to prevent the spread of that disease through our community and really drive those case numbers down. So even if the immunity were to fade, just like our airbag deflates, as long as it deployed when we needed it to, it puts us in a position to really affect the impact of this disease within our communities and begin to work more effectively at a community level to secure those gains through the application of these guidelines and consistent use of vaccine from person to person.
Dr. Masood, as you know, I really love to smile, and I'm always smiling. And these masks have made that very difficult. So, after being vaccinated, can we stop wearing these masks?
I wish it was as easy as that. Unfortunately, it is not. So you have to understand that there is a chance that you can still catch COVID after the 2-dose series. The chance is small, but it's still there. So once you get the infection after the vaccination, you may not develop complications from the disease, but you are still going to be at risk of transmitting that infection to your friends, your family, your coworkers. So if you keep the mask on while you have the infection, you will prevent it from spreading it to others. So that is one main reason that you have to keep wearing the mask after successful inoculation with the 2-dose vaccines. The other reason is the new variants. You may encounter the new variants that may not be effectively terminated by the vaccine. So I would definitely advise to keep the mask on after getting the vaccination.
My question is for the entire panel at this point. For those of us who are here, and as well as for those people who are watching from home, what can all of us do to help at this point?
Hi, this is Ben Robinson. I'll go first, and I'll leave to others to join in. But, I think something that's really worth highlighting is that there is a lot of nervousness and consternation around this vaccine. The population that is currently eligible are those that are at the greatest risk for severe outcomes from this disease. I know here in Wood County, when we looked at our hospitalization data and our death data, about 55% of our hospitalizations were among those 65 and older, and nearly 90% of our deaths were among people who are 65 and older. So there are people here who really feel that their very life and their very health is at risk. And so as they're seeking this life-saving vaccine, there just isn't enough of it. And so people are really nervous and struggling to get connected with appointments. Couple that with the fact that there's a lot of appointments that are accessible through technology and not technology that people are more accustomed to, like a telephone. So one thing that would be really helpful within our broader faith community is to identify the seniors in your sphere of influence, whether they be in your congregations, in your neighborhoods, in your places of work or your service organizations. Identify individuals who are eligible and see if they need help connecting with a vaccine. They may be interested but not know how to begin. I can tell you that for both Wood County and Lucas County, our websites are great places to start. And I know that you have information to share on Lucas County in particular. But we've been working really hard with our providers to connect good information to the community at large. But if you can stand in the gap and essentially come alongside those seniors that are in your sphere, you can help them to navigate that environment really effectively and give them the opportunity to be connected to that life-saving vaccine. I will tell you that when people go to these vaccine clinics and they're getting their dose, there are tears on people's faces as they're being vaccinated and realizing for the first time that they may not be another victim of COVID. And so we have an opportunity to bring that joy and that hope to members of our community just by reaching out to those around us and stepping into the gap and helping them to be connected to this resource that may be elusive to so many who can't navigate the technology.
I'd like to expand upon that. Very, very well said, Commissioner. Social determinants of health, and these things are going to persist long after we reach our herd immunity. There's a digital divide. There's access issues. And we know where our most vulnerable populations are by zip code. So one of the things we have to do, even though we're talking about people 65 and older, we know that people in Ohio of color have been disproportionately impacted social, economically, psychologically, physically, every which way as a result of this pandemic. So what we need to do is, as I alluded to and said earlier, and we've all echoed that message, is having those voices that people trust, having access to some place that's convenient. It's going to be down in single digits tonight. If you wanted a vaccine tomorrow, would you walk 3 blocks if it's -5 wind chill? Probably not. So we're trying to think outside of the box. How do we bring those vaccines to the people? And you have piloted this, and we think it's going to be and is very successful. So we need to go from ship to shoulder, and we need to make it as convenient as possible. And again, we just have to emphasize that consistent message that it's safe, it's effective, we'll bring it to you.
That's great. Did you have something you wanted to add?
If I could add just one more thing, throughout the Northwest region, and particularly here in Wood County and Lucas County, I know for sure, if you are interested in helping in this effort directly, and standing alongside others who are literally saving lives right now with this vaccine, you can do that by simply doing a Google search for Medical Reserve Corps. That's 3 words, Medical Reserve Corps, CORPS is the last word, and then putting in your home county, Wood County or Lucas County. This will give you an opportunity to enroll with our volunteer organizations. There are so many ways that you can support this campaign, both at vaccine clinics as well as things that are helping with signups and other things that are happening. So if you have an interest in being involved, we would encourage you to do that. We are always looking for more volunteers because this is an overwhelming task, and the fact that these leaders are coming together with us here on this forum is a representation of just how significant it is, and we want to invite you to join the fight. So whether this can be something done through your congregations or for folks that are listening at home, we would love to connect you with opportunities if you can reach out to us through that avenue.
Thanks. It is an opportunity to serve our community. But there are a couple of questions that have come in that I'm just going to rapid fire toss your way. The first one is people are asking about specific symptoms or potential reactions like Bell's palsy or allergic reactions. Your advice to people in general about the vaccine would be?
I would say go for it. Looking at the data, the risk for anaphylaxis, which is one severe side effect from any vaccine, with the mRNA vaccines, it's so much rare, like 10 out of a million persons who get the vaccine. And for the same reason, you are monitored at the vaccination site for 15 minutes, because the people who did develop anaphylaxis did so very rapidly. So if you can be monitored at a site, I think you're going to be fine. And as far as the other reactions like Bell's palsy or GBS, those are very, very rare as compared to the other vaccines. And then most of the signs and symptoms that you get after the vaccination, those are very transient. Usually last around 24 to 48 hours, not more than that. And taking simple Tylenol or Motrin would help you feel better.
Thank you. That was great. Did you want to go ahead, Dr. Armstrong?
Yes, I thought it would be probably appropriate to say that pregnancy and breastfeeding, if you were thinking about becoming pregnant, are pregnant, that the way these vaccines work, it cannot alter our genetic DNA. It does not get into the cell. So the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has actually made pregnancy a high-risk qualifying condition. So you should not require a pregnancy test. You should offer the vaccine to anyone who's thinking about being pregnant, or breastfeeding. We do know that there's a higher risk, even though severe illness is rare in pregnant women, but it is of course disproportionate in women of color. So we know something genetically with being pregnant, your chances of being admitted to an ICU, being on a ventilator, potential morbidity is higher. So just wanted to make sure that our viewers out there know that even though we don't have the studies, because there weren't pregnant women in these studies, just by the way the vaccine works, it should not be withheld.
I would add something to that as well. So for pregnant patients or patients who are lactating, if they get the vaccine, it is very important that you enroll at the VSafe. It's a mobile app. You can enter if you have any reactions, any adverse side effects, so that goes in the database to help make others get the right decisions. So it's still doable, but it will help others.
That's great. I think one of the things that I've heard you recommend too is check with your primary care physician a lot, and that's a great source to just make sure that you're getting information from them. There are some people who feel like this is a little one-sided, so we'll put it on the hot seat. Like all we're talking about is pro-vaccine. So what would you say to people who are on the other side, or people who interact with people who are like, how do we respond to that? I know, that's a toughie.
I'll take a shot at this first. I think it's important to understand and to hear people out. I always want to understand why someone thinks the things that they think. And so I would take an opportunity to take a step back, and rather than trying to win an argument, I would pause and just take a chance to listen and understand what is informing someone's opinion. There may be a variety of things that have occurred. They could have had a reaction to a vaccine previously. They could have had bad information. They may just be nervous. And you're not going to convince somebody who is nervous with a series of facts. And so I think I would want to take a step back and just say, talk to me about your perspective. Help me understand where you're coming from. Really listen to them and meet them as a person. And as faith leaders, you do this so well. I mean, I'm telling you things that you model for us. So this is not something that, you're, as they say, preaching to the choir. What happens when the choir preaches to the preacher, right? So I don't know what that means. So, this is a chance for us to step into that space. And I think for us on the health side, to really meet people where they are and to understand what's informing your information, where are you getting this from? What are your concerns? And ask the question. It might be as simple as, do you want me to go with you? Sometimes there is power in just being next to someone and walking through that space with them And faith leaders, you have an opportunity to do this every day. And those who are listening at home have a chance to step into the lives of those that are eligible now and maybe not sure of how to take the next step.
Thanks, Commissioner. Let's get into some of the logistics. I think one of the biggest things that we've all seen is there is a growing interest in the vaccine, but there's a lot of demand, and we're maybe limited on supply. So if people are interested, talk about how do we sign up, where do we go, and what are realistic expectations in terms of calls, waits, all of that. So between Ben Pushka from Lucas County and Ben, we got two Bens, we got three Bens tonight. Ben Robinson, go ahead and give us some insight there.
Well, the health department in Lucas County has run some basic numbers, and currently about 155,000 people are eligible in Lucas County based on the 1B category that the governor has rolled out. Last week we got 10,000 shots, if that gives you an idea of how much supply versus demand there is. So patience is definitely one of the big tips I would recommend. But if you are interested in getting a shot, check out either Wood County or Lucas County's Health Department webpage. The Lucas County Health Department's webpage, if you go on the main page, there's a little vial right there at the top of the screen. Click on that. You can scroll down. You can pick your provider if you wanted to go to Bay Park or if you wanted to go to St. Anne's. They'll list the times that are available. But if you go and check and it's not available, keep checking back, because some people are canceled because something has happened in their life and they're not able to make it, or they weren't eligible. We're going through, at least in Lucas County side, if they aren't eligible and meet the criteria out there, we are canceling those appointments. So there are appointments that do pop up throughout the week as we're coming through those appointments.
Thanks. And just to add to that, in Wood County, we also want to be a source of information for vaccine in our county. And likewise, the supply is really limited. So at the current rate that we are getting vaccine, both in Wood County and in Lucas County, we may not be able to serve everyone who's eligible until after May, until the end of May. And so we hope that we see an increase of supply as we come in, because it could be sooner than that. And it's all dependent upon that vaccine supply. So we're looking ahead with hope. We're hearing good things from the federal government and from our colleagues at the Ohio Department of Health. So all of this, if it comes to fruition, could get us done quite a bit sooner than that. But there is substantial demand and very limited supply right now. In Wood County, you can start with our health department webpage. If you are an internet user, if you're not, you can call our main line. The health department website is www.woodcountyhealth.org, or the main line is 419-352-8402, and that will get you started and moving forward with the information that you need. Once you get there, we can connect you to all the various providers that we have, and that will help you to get connected to our information. So again, 419-352-8409, as well as our health department webpage.
Can I ask the commissioner something quick? The Good Neighbor program that they have in Michigan, do you think when our supplies increase that we may do something like that here in Ohio, where basically if I'm driving you to get your vaccine, that I would be available to be able to get the vaccine at the same time?
You know, we in terms of the Good Neighbor program, we do see that happen from time to time already, where spouses are certainly helping each other and children are helping each other. Much right now, we have some cases where children are eligible along with their parents, so it happens in a limited fashion. That is a great idea, and I don't know what the opportunities are for expansion into future tiers, but it is worth noting that as we move forward into our future tiers, we don't know exactly what that will look like just yet. It is possible that we'll see one more round of prioritization, maybe another, depending on the various industries that are there. So we have not yet served some really critical industries, like our law enforcement has not yet been eligible. Neither are firefighters, who aren't also EMS certified. We haven't yet served transportation providers for our elderly individuals, or meal service providers, or a number of other individuals that provide essential services like blood products from blood donations. So there are a lot of folks out there that provide critical services that we think we would love to vaccinate. We just don't have the supply. So once we get beyond these, potentially we may see some more guidance. We're waiting for that from the state. and then we'll be able to know how quickly it'll be available for the general population. But again, the sooner we get the vaccines, the faster we'll move them. Both Wood and Lucas County are doing a great job. We're some of the top counties in the state in terms of percentage of population vaccinated, and that's really evidence of the great partnerships that we have with folks here in the room, as well as the broader community.
I have another question. So do you anticipate we will have the vaccine rollout to pharmacies near future?
So the vaccine rollout to pharmacies is actually already starting, and so we are seeing that other pharmacies, national chains, are being allocated vaccine federally. We know that just this week, Rite Aid was one of those that now is getting vaccine. CVS and Walgreens throughout the state have had it already. And even some of our providers that have been getting it from the state are now getting federal allocations. So the goal is to make it as widely available as possible. And this is an encouraging step in the right direction. We think that many hands make light work. And so as many providers as are interested that can get the vaccine, we want to see them come online because it will help us to get vaccine to all of those who are interested. And to your point, it's a lot easier to get vaccine at your local neighborhood pharmacy than it is to go to one location across the county. And so this is a step in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you. Ben Pushka from Lucas County. Give the contact info for those who are in Lucas County. What's the next step that they need to take? I'm putting you on the spot there.
So they can go to the Lucas County, Toledo Lucas County website, or if there's a technological or you don't feel comfortable going to the website, you can either call the Area Office on Aging or you can call 211.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, that concludes our time together, and so you all at home can give a round of applause, and we're all listening to you engage and say thank you. But thank you to our religious leaders. Thank you to our medical experts. Thank you for joining us. We just want to let you know, if you're looking for more information, vproject.org/resources will be a great place for you to begin to explore taking that next step. And thank you so much for taking some of your time to hang out with us as we ask questions, as you ask questions. Really, our heartbeat is we are for our community. We are for you, and we love what happens here when we are healthy, thriving, doing the things that we all love. But we also think it's important that we collectively are informed, even if we ultimately make a little different personal decision along the way. So thanks for spending a few minutes with us tonight. We'll see you later.